Hello everybody, Shrouded Hand here. After making my video about Alan Robichaux, I thought I'd take a look at some more strange deaths. There isn't really a theme that links these videos. Sometimes I'll read about a death and it seems fairly mundane at first, but there's these weird details that I find myself thinking about later that night as I'm trying to fall asleep. As that's a bit of a mouthful to put in a video title, I present to you the strange death of Christene Skubish. The date was June the 6th, 1990. In the early hours of the morning, Christene Skubish was driving down Route 50, heading from the Sacramento area down to Southern California to start a new paralegal job. With her in the car was her 3-year-old son, Nicky. At around 2 a.m, they were passing through an area known as Bullion Bend. The exact sequence of events here is unknown, but it's believed that Christene fell asleep at the wheel. The car veered off the side of the road and fell down a 40-foot embankment, colliding with a tree at the bottom. The crash was so severe that the entire roof of the car was completely torn off. The steepness of the embankment and the fact that the tree cover was so thick meant that drivers couldn't see the wreck from the road, and as a result, the car lay there completely undiscovered. 2 days later, after hearing nothing from their daughter, Christene's parents filed a missing person report and police began to search for her. Despite passing the area of the crash multiple times, the car remained unseen. Police had no idea what had happened to Christene or Nicky. A few days passed without any leads until June the 11th, when police received a strange phone call. A woman named Deborah Hoyt and her husband were driving along Route 50 at around 3:30 a.m. when they saw a woman lying by the side of the road. The woman was lying on her side, facing the road. Her legs were slightly bent and her arms were up above her head. The strangest part though, the woman was completely naked. This is definitely not the sort of thing you'd expect to see by the side of the highway at 3:30 in the morning. The Hoyts were naturally freaked out. They thought it might be some sort of prank or a distraction technique to steal their car. They decided not to stop. Instead, they drove to the nearest public phone and called the police. They said that they'd seen the woman on Bullion Bend, and although police quickly searched the area, they were unable to locate the naked woman. Later that morning, when the light was better, they decided to search again. Once again, they couldn't find any sign of the mystery woman, but they did find a small child's shoe by the side of the road where they'd said they'd seen her. Peering over the embankment, close to where the shoe was found, an officer discovered the wreckage of Christene Skubish's car, half hidden in thick bushes. Inside the car, they found Christene's body sat in the driver's seat. Beside her, curled up in the passenger seat, was Nicky. He was naked and lying in a fetal position. Amazingly, despite having no shelter, food or water for 5 days straight, 3-year-old Nick Skubish was still alive, although just barely. Doctors examining him think that he was moments away from death. He was severely malnourished and dehydrated. He was covered in blisters and scratches from poison oak. At that time of year, the daytime temperatures would have easily reached 90 degrees. It's assumed that Nicky removed his clothes in an attempt to cool off. However, the nighttime temperatures plummeted rapidly. When they found him, his skin was turning blue and he was suffering from hypothermia. Nick Skubish made a miraculous recovery, but unfortunately his mother had died, and for me this is where the story gets a bit weird. See, an examination of the body showed that Christene had died instantly in the car crash, and her corpse had been pinned under a large tree branch the whole time. Not only does this provide us with the chilling image of a 3-year-old boy sitting next to his decomposing mother for 5 days, it also begs the question, if it wasn't Christene, who was the naked woman that Deborah Hoyt had seen by the side of the road? As far as I know, this still remains a mystery. A few theories have been put forward. Perhaps they saw a discarded mannequin, Although the police were on the scene a few minutes after they called them, and you'd think they would have found something like that if it was so clearly by the side of the road. Perhaps they'd actually seen Nicky Skubish. After all, he was naked when they found him in the car, and the presence of his tennis shoe by the side of the road means that he must have climbed up the embankment at some point before returning to the car. When asked about this, the Hoyts were adamant. It was definitely an adult woman that they'd seen. Perhaps it really was pranksters or someone attempting to hijack the car. Although, if they went to the effort of having a naked woman lie by the side of the road at 3:30 AM, you'd think there would be reports of them attempting it on other people. Surely they didn't just wait for one car to pass by and then pack up and went home. The other theory is paranormal in nature. Some people believe that the naked woman was the ghost of Christene trying to get help for her boy. The woman they'd seen was naked and lying in a fetal position. Nick Skubish was found naked and lying in a fetal position. An interesting coincidence perhaps, or maybe it was a supernatural attempt from Christene to describe her son's predicament. I'm reminded here of a case from 2015 known as the Utah Miracle Baby. A woman named Lynn Grosbeck crashed her car over the side of a bridge, landing upside down in freezing cold water. She was killed immediately, but her 18-month-old daughter remained alive, hanging upside down in the back of the car for 14 hours before rescue arrived. The weird thing is that during the rescue, firemen clearly heard a woman's voice calling from inside the car. After rescuing the baby, they removed Lynn Grosbeck from the car, and they were surprised to find she had died many hours previously. You can even see a video of the incident. You can hear a muffled voice from inside the car and the rescuers answering it. Now, this doesn't have much to do with the death of Christene Skubish, but it does show a certain motif. It's a recurring theme that often appears after a tragedy like this. The idea that a motherly bond can be so strong, her spirit will try to protect the child from beyond the grave. It feels quite archetypal, and if you look back through old ghost stories, you'll find many more examples of this kind of protective mother spirit rescuing their children from peril. Whether or not that means it's more or less believable is a matter of personal opinion. The story of Christene and Nicky was covered in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries and an episode of Paranormal Witness. I haven't actually been able to find the Unsolved Mysteries episode, so there might be some information in there that I haven't covered here. The Paranormal Witness episode obviously focuses on the supernatural aspects of the story. There's all this stuff about how Christene's aunt had dreamt about the number 16, and when they searched the area of the crash, they found a mile marker with the number 16 on it. There's also an interview with Nick Skubish where he describes seeing a glowing light and a faceless figure standing by his mother's body after the crash. It's all spooky stuff, and although I'm not adverse to considering the paranormal, I do think you have to eliminate all earthly explanations first, and in the case of Christene Skubish, it's a 30-year-old case with very few witnesses. I don't think the matter will ever be explained in a satisfactory way. Somehow though, I think that makes it even creepier. There's something quite comforting about the idea that the naked woman that Deborah Hoyt saw was a ghostly apparition. It explains the whole event quite neatly, but then what if the naked woman wasn't a ghost? Personally, I think that has even more sinister implications. Who was the naked woman? What was she doing there at 3:30 AM, and why has she never been found? So, what do you think of the story? Perhaps there's another explanation that I haven't considered. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you found it informative. If you enjoyed the content, then give it a thumbs up, as it helps me out with the dreaded YouTube algorithm. Shout out to everyone who supports the channel, either on Patreon or through PayPal. Thank you very much to all of you. The help is highly appreciated. Thank you very much. So here's some more videos you might be interested in. You can click on them if you want, I don't mind. Okay, until next time, goodbye.